It has not been the best of starts for the Indian IT companies this year, but is there possibly a silver lining? Kritika Saxena, who's been cracking and really really delving deep into those numbers, brings us her analysis. So Kritika, is there any silver lining at all in the dark clouds?
Well, yes, India's top 4 IT companies have released their first quarter earnings. Infosys, TCS, HCLTech and Wipro. Now, it's not a very pretty picture, but there are some surprises here. So let's begin with the dollar revenue. Typically, dollar revenues for the first quarter are and have been fairly sluggish, but this time around there have been some surprises. So HCLTech is leading with a 3.7% dollar revenue growth. Infosys right behind with 3.2%. And you'll see as we go on that HCL and Infosys seem to be neck to neck in many areas. TCS also fairly close as far as dollar revenue growth is concerned, 3.1%, and Wipro over here, 0.9%. But that was still better than expected. Let's pull up constant currency. Infosys at 2.7%, HCLTech right behind at 2.6%. So constant currency is what you need to remember, given the fact that the currency has been fluctuating over the last 2 quarters. TCS at 2%. Even then, it was still better than expected. And Wipro, again, behind the 3, which has been the case for the last 4 quarters, at about 0.9%. The other metric to watch out for is the profit. Now, typically, we don't look at profit when we compare these players, but this time around, the tax outgo, the wage hike had impacted profit. So as you see, Infosys saw a decline of 3.3%, HCL 6.6%, Wipro saw a decline of 8%, and TCS, interestingly, saw the largest decline of about 10%. Even over here, Infosys, HCL seem to be better than what we were expecting. We were expecting significantly higher decline, and this is at least half of what we were expecting. Let's pull up the other figure, and that's the one that you need to remember, margins. It's very important as to how these players maintain their margins. Let me point out over here that TCS is the only player that has the higher margin base and has maintained that 23.4%. So if you look at the numbers, even though TCS is last on that list with a decline of 150 basis point, despite that, they are still higher than the peers. Infosys has this time around climbed up with a margin of 24.1% with a growth of 50 basis points. So Infosys, HCLTech neck to neck again, with HCL seeing a 30 basis point of an increase and Wipro seeing a decline of about 150 basis points. Even then, in the case of Wipro, in the case of HCLTech, much better than what we were expecting. Now, typically the only 2 players who release their guidance, let's pull the guidance chart, there you go. The only 2 players who release the guidance are HCLTech and Infosys. Remember, Infi's base is higher than HCLTech, but even then, Infi is expecting 6.5 to 8.5%. Now, this is just in line with NASSCOM guidance that they had charted for FY18. So, Infi expecting a very average year. They have been indicating that by the second half, they may look at increasing. But HCLTech over there, expecting a 10.5 to 12.5% growth. So, it seems like HCLTech seems to be the larger winner in terms of outlook, in terms of the kind of stability in revenues that they have seen. But yes, it's an interesting start of the year, and we are expecting HCL and Infosys to stay ahead, and perhaps TCS closely behind, followed by Wipro expecting to see some kind of a turnaround by the second half.